All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clark Art Talks. I'm Kendra Larson. Today, we are very lucky to have hi, Grant, talented Ka'ila Farrell Smith joining us. Ka'ila is a contemporary Klamath Modoc visual artist, writer, and activist based in Modoc Point, Oregon. The conceptual framework of her practice focuses on channeling research through a creative flow of experimentation and artistic playfulness rooted in Indigenous aesthetics and abstract formalism. Utilizing painting with wild harvested pigments and stenciling found metal detritus, her work explores space in between Indigenous and Western paradigms. I'll also note that her work is here at the Art Gallery, just right over there, as part of the current exhibition, The Stone Path. So if you get a chance, come on by and see that before January 24th. I also add that Ka'ila is an old dear friend of mine, and I'm very, very excited to catch up with her and hear more about her current practice. And so Ka'ila, I will just let you take it away from here. And it looks like Grant has his whole class here. So that's kind of cool.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Kendra. Waklisi, so Gausasas Ka'ila, Nua Uksikini, Nua Mudoknim. So I just like to introduce myself in my native language, Klamath. So I just said, Waklisi's like, hey, what's up? How's it going? And I'm from the Klamath and Modoc nations. So I'm a enrolled member of the Klamath tribes and a descendant of the Klamath Modoc and Yahuskan band of Paiutes, Northern Paiutes. And so I'm residing here in my ancestral homelands, which is in Southern Oregon. So I live actually kind of on the rim of the upper Klamath Lakes, and I'm just like about 40 minutes south of Crater Lake. And I'll be bringing all this up because actually land and place is really important to my practice. But I do want to just kind of dive right into my talk. I have a lot of slides and a lot of topics, I guess, to get into today. But yeah, let's just jump into it. I'm going to, again, I haven't done Zoom in a while, so give me a moment here. I'm going to try and share my screen. Uh-oh, see it. I got to do share screen. Okay, hold on one second. And this again is from my, can you see that?
Yep, we can see your computer desktop.
Yeah, okay, hold on one second. I'm trying to do play from start. Can you see the presentation?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Okay, so yeah, my new work from the last 2 years, so 2022 and 2023, is called Ghosts in the Machine. And again, I just gave this talk at PNC on November 8th, so excuse me, I know the date's a little off, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go through. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so today I'd like to go through and talk about my new work. Like I said, Ghost in the Machine. Also, I'll be covering, this is just kind of the agenda of the talk, Farrell Smith, which is me, the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit. I'm suing the state of Oregon Department of Justice. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'll also go into some of the work before this series, which was called Land Back, which also accompanied a chapter I wrote for an academic book, and that chapter is called Ghost Rider, Performing Fugitive Indigeneity. So I'm really excited actually to be giving discussions about that, because that book is in print right now. It's being published. So I'm really encouraging institutions and it's an expensive book though, so I want institutions to buy this book in their libraries so that students have access to the content that I wrote about, because it's extremely important actually, especially with what we're all witnessing and living through right now in regards to like the foreign policy and the war agenda of our country. Again, I also want to excuse you. I have 2 dogs. I am at home. My partner is traveling to visit family, and so I'm here with 2 dogs. If you hear them barking, please excuse me. I might have to get up and deal with that at some point. I also was just in DC, Washington, DC lobbying my senators and representatives. So I want to talk about that. And then the last 3 years I've been working on a campaign to protect the McDermott caldera, which is in northern Nevada and southern Oregon. And accompanying that conversation, I will be discussing the concept of green colonialism, which kind of encompasses all of this work around Ghosts in the Machine. The main thing, oh wait, how does this go forward? Let's see. Okay, so I wrote what I learned in my last talk is I'm going to just really attempt to read the slides that I created and not just babble on. So, okay, The Ghost in the Machine is a series that's really like monochrome. I made like a black and white series basically. And again, as Kendra would know, we were actually trained together in undergrad. I learned how to mix blacks, so I never use black out of a tube. So I just want to make that like clear off the bat. So all of this is kind of based off of, again, I said I was going to read the slides. Okay, Ghost in the Machine. It's a visual matrix of grayscales, layering wild harvested lithium topsoil, metal detritus stencils that I've found here at my studio at Modoc Point, and which is like kind of it used to be a ranch. I live like in a ranch lands. I mean, this is again, I live on the former reservations of my tribe, the Klamath tribes. And actually, I will put that in there because I don't have a slide for it. So the Klamath tribes here, I'm like north of Klamath Falls, south of Chiloquin. Chiloquin is where our tribal headquarters is, but we were terminated as a tribe in 1954, and meaning we don't have any reservation land. So the government took all of our land at that point in time. So we call this the former reservation of the Klamath tribes, meaning most of the land around here is owned by ranchers, so it's mostly for cattle. And when you get south of Klamath Falls, there's more agricultural lands, but just kind of giving you we deal with a lot of and so when I talk about my work in land back series, we do want access control. We do want our lands back because our waters, our lake here is very polluted. So anyways, there's a lot of issues that we, and I say we, I mean like the Klamath tribal members are constantly kind of in dealing with here in our homelands. So we were reinstated as a tribe though in 1987. So I'm like we're a federally recognized tribe. So like my ancestors are treaty signers of our 1864 treaty, and so I have access to hunt, fish, access my clean water, drinking water, anywhere on that land, but it's kind of a contested area, I guess is kind of what I'm kind of getting at. And a lot of my work is about that. So yes, I found these stencils, all this like metal detritus, this metal machinery, and I mix that with acrylic paints and wild harvested pigments. But so in this specific series, the found metal detritus stencils visually represent like machinery, grids, bots, and perhaps unidentified flying objects. Interesting. At least I found it interesting. So this is a series. So it's from 2022 to 2023. It's a series of 21 paintings in a study in grayscales, again, featuring that wild harvested northern Paiute lithium topsoil. So this is just like, it's that whitish gray colored. I don't know if you've ever traveled out to the high desert of southern Oregon and northern Nevada, but it's like this white. They call lithium white gold. So I'm not obviously a miner, and I'm going to talk about mining, but I just kind of collected the topsoil of it to what would be the word? Conceptually discuss, rare earth mining, rare earth minerals, and the mining of that, and the what we're going to see, what we've seen, and what will be happening in the future if we don't stop it, which is my goal. So anyways, yeah, that is this soil that I collected during my travels through northern Nevada and southern Oregon. This work is my response, and again, I wrote this my artist statement. I'm like, I don't actually know how to pronounce this word. This work is my response to the burgeoning, I don't know how to say that word, global AI, or artificial intelligence, technocratic state that is threatening human freedom through the violent extraction of rare earth minerals like lithium, from sacred tribal spiritual grounds for the sole benefit of Western electric elitism. And I have a lot to say about that, but like right now I'm currently dealing with, I have a lot of technology problems in my life because of this activism work that I do. And so this was kind of my response to it. And my last series had a lot of really bright neon colors, and it was so much color that I just needed for myself personally, like kind of tone it down, I guess, or just focus on like a monochrome series. So that's what this work is. And I treated this series, I'm a printmaker. Well, I'm a trained painter, but I love printmaking. And so I love, and so as a painter, monotypes or monoprints I love doing that kind of work. And a lot of my painting practice, or how you kind of see my paintings, is a result of a lot of time in the printmaking studio. So I use a lot of rollers, squeegees, that's stenciling. I do use a lot of spray paint, like aerosols and stuff like that. And I do, like, I have to mask up or with the respirators when I do that work. But yeah, that's kind of content wise, or like that's visually, like when you see my work, you'll see a lot of that kind of those marks in my paintings. So yeah, the title of the exhibition, Ghost in the Machine, is a direct visual response to a US Army recruitment video of the same name, alluding to the reality that we are being tracked, traced, and databased by the US military industrial complex via transnational corporations, i.e. Google, which they state in the video is an ongoing cyber or psychological warfare. And I just want to note that, like, especially over the last 3 years, but even before that, we've just been undergoing massive amounts of psychological warfare, psyops, back to back, like starting with, I would say, Trump, then COVID, Ukraine war. Yeah, there's just a lot. Palestine, Israel, like what we're seeing right now, it's just this, it's ongoing, and we're like having to digest or contemplate or deal with it through these little supercomputers that we just hold in our hands all the time. And we're at the brink of a very, very dangerous transition, I believe. And so that's why I felt like this work was really important to create and to start a conversation about. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's completely personal to me. Hence the fact that I'm suing the state of Oregon Department of Justice. So I'm the lead plaintiff, Farrell Smith versus the Oregon Department of Justice. So my birthday is July 27th. I spent the last day of being 40 years old in a court suing the state of Oregon this summer. So I'm one of many, but yeah. So anyways, I can get into it. I could give like multiple presentations about all of these slides, but as I go through this presentation. But yeah, so during my active resistance, which was primarily between 2016 and 2020, my active resistance to the Jordan Cove energy projects, I directly experienced censorship, spying, and technological interference on my personal devices and social media apps, which is currently happening to me right now. That's like since Saturday. I don't know what's been going on. I was doing good there for a while because I have I'm switching over to new technology, but there's always problems with it. It's yeah, I'm not sure what we're all going through, but I know that I've been dealing with it for many, many years. And actually at Standing Rock in 2016, there was a hill, we called it Facebook Hill, and that's where everybody would walk up to. I was there with like 10,000 people, right? And but all of our phones were being messed with. So anyways, I'm not sure exactly, I don't have all the, that's why I decided to be a plaintiff, actually, to sue the state of Oregon, because I'm literally right now, I just got an email from my lawyers that I'm in the judge just sided with us from this motion in this summer that the state of Oregon has to give over we're in the discovery phase, and all what we wanted from the Titan Fusion Center, they redacted like 99% of it. So it was just all blacked out. And so the judge just sided with us saying, no, this is unfair. You need to give them what they want unredacted. So that was a big win. So I'm excited to announce that. So I'm just in the super slow process of getting the information of what the state of Oregon their fusion center, what they've been they track all of us, especially if you've ever been to a protest, if you've been to a women's march, Black Lives Matter march. They were definitely tracking us fighting Jordan Cove. So that's why our lawyers actually reached out to us, because they know there's going to be clear evidence of them tracing specifically me. So anyways, it's just we're living in a really crazy time, and like the legal aspect needs to follow up with how fast our technology is moving forward. So yeah, anyway, so if you don't know, Jordan Cove is a subsidiary of Pembina, a Canadian corporation, which would have transported liquid natural gas, or LNG, across which is a fossil fuel. It's just a way of, most of our electricity, especially in neoliberal states like Oregon, LNG, liquid natural gas is what fuels and powers everything, or most everything. Anyway, so this pipeline I'm talking about, I stopped a pipeline. It would have crossed 500 waterways in Southern Oregon to an export terminal. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. An export terminal in Coos Bay to sell it to foreign markets, and specifically, I believe it was Asian markets. And yeah, okay, I already explained this. So yeah, I'm the lead plaintiff suing the state of Oregon and the Titan Fusion Center for illegally spying on me and violating my First Amendment rights to resist a major environmental and cultural threat to my ancestral homelands and clean waterways. So basically, going through all of this is like what inspired me to like want to make this painting series that's kind of discussing, and hopefully for me in an abstract sense and a conceptual sense, to convey the message that we are all under surveillance, and have been since 9/11. That's when these fusion centers. So after 9/11, we went through the Patriot Act, and they created these fusion centers in, like, I think it's 80 cities, at least, that we know of. So Titan is the fusion center in Oregon. So that's who I'm suing. And the goal of this legal case is that we want the Titan Fusion Center to be it's unlawful, and it's illegally spying on all of us, on citizens, for our personal, religious, for whatever, all free, First Amendment rights, and that it's unlawful and it needs to be shut down. So what I dealt with basically was that, like, the fusion center. So I was stopping a pipeline through Southern Oregon. It would have went from Malin, which is just right down here, to Coos Bay. And I say 500 waterways, I'm talking about the Klamath River, the Rogue River, the Umpqua River, where, like, these are major, huge, clean drinking water, like massive whitewater rapid rivers that all flow from Crater Lake, which is where I live. So where I'm at is the headwaters. So it was an insane project. It was completely insane. LNG is like, if it leaks, or it's not if, but when that LNG leaks, it's when you can light water on fire is when this stuff starts leaking into water. So it was a really horrible project, but we actually won. We stopped that pipeline. So yes, since successfully stopping the Jordan Cove energy projects, I've been supporting tribal communities and elders in the Northern Paiute, Western Shoshone, and Bannock peoples who are actively resisting multiple proposed foreign lithium mines surrounding the Fort McDermott Reservation on the Oregon and Nevada border. So the corporations, so I guess on that note, so basically we won. It was like the last day about the last day of the Trump administration. It was like a January something, 2019, I believe. I actually was prepared a statement. I thought that the Trump administration was going to approve the Jordan Cove pipelines and just push it through, like, illegally, like, just, I don't know where we're at, like what rights we have as United States citizens, but I'm also Indigenous, a member of a tribe. But they caved. We won, basically. And I was, at that point in time with Jordan Cove, I was a board member of Rogue Climate, which was one of the major nonprofit organizations down here, based out of Medford or Phoenix, Oregon, around Ashland, Medford area. And they had at that time we were representing like 700,000 people. So, like, when we would get public comments, that's how we stopped the pipeline, is that we would have these massive public comments. So the company has to get permits from the state of Oregon. And so at these permitting processes, we would just have massive amounts of people show up and online. So but the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, was just like, it was at this point we had to push them. And so I was a legal intervener in that case. And I'm going to sign up as a legal intervener with this lithium mine, because we have to end up suing the state. We have to end up suing to be able to win. And anyways, I can't believe we won. I mean, it was just like, dang, like the last thing that the Trump administration did was they caved in. FERC, caved in the state of Oregon, and I was like the leading. It was my letter that was going against FERC, basically, but I was the voice representing 700,000 people that said we don't want this pipeline going through. On the same day, or maybe a day, like within a few days, let's say within a week. So we won Jordan Cove, and within a week, the Trump administration, and again, note, this is in the middle of COVID, this is the middle of lockdowns, this is the middle of pandemic. None of these tribal offices were open in Nevada. The Trump administration shoves through these permits, allowing the lithium mines to start happening, specifically the one at Thacker Pass. So that's the other half of this whole presentation. And I know I said I was going to stick to my slides. So yeah, so I'm going to move from we win LNG fight to now my focus is in Fort McDermott, and supporting these communities and I'll go into more of why personally that's important to me. But in general, this is I consider myself a wartime artist, and I've been to many battles, really like the first, for me, like the first like literal physical, me traveling to that is Standing Rock. And then I came home knowing I have to fight a pipeline, Jordan Cove, and now we're into the lithium mines. So lithium wars. So the corporations create narratives that green technology, the green dream. I'm sure everybody's heard of this stuff, but that this green mining is good for the environment, but without revealing the truth about what these mining projects really are and what they create, and what they call these communities. They call them sacrifice zones. So I'm talking about Argentina, Chile, the Congo, Africa, and Northern Nevada and Southern Oregon. And so all the indigenous communities around this area, there's the Fort McDermott, there's so many indigenous peoples and native tribes and communities in Nevada. But in Oregon, like the closest tribes are like, it's Fort McDermott literally is on the border. And I have maps, I'm going to show you all this later, but there's the Burns Paiute tribe, Klamath tribes. I mean, so this whole area needs to be consulted with is what the kind of the point is of this. But what the threat, whether it's a pipeline or whether it's a lithium mine, is that they create man camps. And so they have to ship in workers, and these workers are usually out of state. And then they have to build these temporary man camps for these workers who are making good money in a really rural place. And the uptick, what we've seen from North Dakota, South Dakota, from the oil fields, Canada is the prime example. Oh, so much, all of this goes back to Canada. Is that the uptick in abuse, sexual abuse, drugs, alcohol, and then, missing and murdered, we call it missing and murdered Indigenous women. All of this goes up within these resource extraction projects. So again, these were 21 paintings. I basically made the same painting over and over again. So that's why I numbered it 001 through 021. So it's a series of 21 paintings. These are the little ones. And they were on view at the Russo Lee Gallery in August of 2023. And the work is represented by that gallery. So go by and check it out. See my new work there. And so the best part of that show for me was that, sorry, I don't know, kind of blocking here. Video. This Friedrich Huer. I used to live in Germany, so I kind of speak some, looks like a German name to me. She visited my exhibition and actually wrote this. I was really impressed by it. A really good piece in the Oregon Arts Watch about my show. And the title, she named the title of this green colonialism. So that's where I'm coining that term from. And the fact that it's linked to my work, I'm going to take in with pride, because this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with green colonialism. It's not good, that's why I state that in my artist statement, that like this is happening, this mining, this resource extraction is happening for the sole benefit of Western electric elitism, meaning the entire global South and Indigenous communities are the sacrifice zones, so that we can have all this technology and what like the World Economic Forum calls, they want to move us into 15-minute cities where you can be kind of controlled. And that's where I think the only way this electric vehicle future makes sense is if you are shoved into a 15-minute city and you can charge your car and just like drive around, or I don't know, you can't go very far in those electric vehicles. And it takes, I mean, the amount of coal you have to burn to power them, it's a whole debacle in my mind. But anyways, she did a really good job in this essay, and I really encourage people to check it out and read it, because it's a conundrum. It's a conundrum, and that's basically what she took out of my work, was that like it's the same painting, the same stencils over and over and over again, but that's kind of the point, that as Indigenous people, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I'm trying to figure out every way to fight this, but it all comes back to the 1872 mining law, which is like the origin of the United States of America, which says anybody that makes a claim can just dig up whatever they want without consultation, without consent of Indigenous people. And so that's ultimately where all of this kind of gets to. And she did a good job with that in that piece. So very cool. Check out my new work. So the work I did before Ghost in the Machine was called Land Back. So I had moved, I lived in Portland from the year 2000, when me and Kendra started undergraduate school at PNCA, and like a lifetime ago, another life ago. And I was a painting major. Yeah, I'm actually the very first Dorothy Lemelson Scholarship recipient from Pacific Northwest College of Art. So yeah, I studied art, and I had a wonderful undergraduate art education during those years in Portland. And Portland, is known for being a printmaking city. So I was kind of always like, I'm a painter, I'm going to be a painter. That's what my goal in life was. And I've accomplished that, so I feel good about that. But I've always loved printmaking, and like I said, a lot of this work, I think you can see a crossover between like how to make marks and how to layer work, and I figured that out through a lot of printmaking processes. So this piece is called Missing Her, No Man Camps. This was on view at the Portland Art Museum in a show called Mesh, which was curated by Kathleen Ash Milby, who's the Native American art curator at the Portland Art Museum. And yeah, you can kind of see that LNG, the text in there. So this was kind of in the midst of me. This was from 2019, so I was kind of in the midst of fighting that pipeline project, and concerned about the missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is the text you can see. So I'm stenciling letters. I do use text in work at some times. All right, so I do want to get into talking about it. So accompanying all of my activism work, my research, my painting and studio practice, I was invited to write a chapter for this academic book, and I was working on this through the kind of COVID lockdown. So yeah, I left Portland in 2018. I was a professor at Portland State University in the Indigenous Nation Studies. And I don't know, I was just feeling like, I think at that point in time, like Oregon College of Arts and Crafts was shutting down. I used to be a mentor at a program at that school. I was just seeing, I don't know, I was feeling really hesitant, tense about being in the city and like pursuing a future, I guess, in Portland. And at the same time, again, I was fighting the pipeline. So anyways, all in all, me and my husband, Kale, Christy, we left Portland with our dog, Pele. I have a new puppy now as well. So I have two dogs. If you hear them, they're barking outside right now. We left and we've been here now for about 5 years here in Modoc Point. And so I relocated my entire practice to my ancestral homelands. So I live where like within 5 of where my father was born, on the former Klamath Reservation. And my father's life. So yeah, I haven't mentioned my dad yet. Yeah, so kind of my entire practice is linked with my father's life and what he did in so I'm following my dad's footsteps basically, and that's what this chapter is ultimately about. Or a brief excerpt, I guess, from that. And so my father, Al Leo Smith, he in 2014, actually just months after I graduated from my master's degree program at Portland State. And he was old. He was an elder. I'm the youngest daughter. I have a younger brother, but we're the youngest children of Al Smith, of 9 children. So I guess what I'm trying to explain is that I was raised by my dad, who was in his older years, and he ended up having dementia, but he is from a very famous court case called Al Smith versus Oregon. So I'm Farrell Smith versus Oregon, and I'm following, and basically our cases are very similar. His specifically about freedom of religion, mine's about freedom of speech. So it's all First Amendment rights, right? So it's like the state encroaching on our First Amendment rights. And unfortunately, that was an infamous case. So Smith versus Oregon, there's many books been written about my dad's case. It's very famous because ultimately the Supreme Court denied my father, Al Smith, a full-blooded American Indian, the freedom of religion to go to Native American church and take peyote, or ingest that sacred sacrament of plant medicines, which is peyote. And the Native American church fought back. And so actually in 1994, there was an amendment to the Native American Freedom of Religion Act, granting all Native American people the rights to engage in their cultural ceremonial practices, which was it was kind of ended up being really good for Native people. Supposedly, we're all still having to fight this, in the courts, but it was a huge blow to Americans and freedom of religion. So my dad used to talk about him hearing, his lawyers say that the result of his case was that we were going to end up in a police state. And I believe that we are at that place at that moment in time now. And my dad used to give talk letters when I was a kid and talking to college students and being like, we need to look at that case, because he's like, if it happens to me, then you're next. And I think that that's where we're at now, as a society and a culture. I didn't really write anything about that in this chapter, actually. Well, but I'm going to read just this one part of it. So basically, performing fugitive indigeneity. I left the city. I removed my labor. I removed my work from the universities, from everything. And I refocused my entire practice on the land and this reconnection with the land. That's what the Land Back series was. And then I couldn't finish that painting series because it was so hard for me to get through this research of ultimately what I ended up finding and writing about. So that I'm being called a terrorist, I'm being called a fugitive on my own ancestral homelands, stolen ancestral homelands. And that is the story of America. That's the story of settler colonialism. It's the story of and we're still living in it. That's why I called this, what we're going through now, green colonialism. It's never changed. Nothing's ever happened to change that. And so it's like, I'm in the university and we're talking about decolonizing the mind, but that doesn't really mean anything unless we have our land back. And so that's kind of what this academic chapter is. So I end up having to cite, 5 other academics to publish. This is Routledge. So the book is called Decolonial Arts Praxis, Transnational Pedagogies and Activism. And my chapter is chapter 3, called Ghostwriter Performing Fugitive Indigeneity. And so I'll just read a little bit from this here. So growing up, I remember listening to my father talk about the Modoc War and our ancestors who were 1864 Klamath treaty signers. He told us stories about his grandma, Emma Ball, who was brought to Fort Klamath when he was 9 years old and forced to watch the U.S. government hang 4 of the Modoc war leaders. Within my research and analysis of these traumatic events on our familial psyches, I came across a very disturbing connection between the legal citation of the lynching of the Modoc war leaders and the US approving torture of prisoners of war at Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib during the Bush administration. So that's kind of the crux of like why I needed to write this chapter. That right here in Fort Klamath, or just right up the road from me, my great grandma Emma Ball was forced to watch the hanging of these Modoc war leaders, and they did that on purpose. They, you know, the Modoc Wars fought for 7 months in the lava beds, which is just in Northern California, and they, you know, so it's this lynching, this forced, the spectacle of lynching, of public lynching. So there's the Modocs and were being forced onto the Klamath Reservation, and they're, you know, historically like enemies to some degree. And that was it's another tactic, these tactics of colonization to shove any, you know, people together onto land. And it was one, I think it's the longest and the most expensive of the Indian Wars. This is like late 1800s. So anyways, I'm like in school, I'm doing research, or I was teaching at this point in time, doing artist residencies, and I'm reading this book, An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. And she's outlines this book outlines the creation of the US military industrial complex as an Indian killer campaign, a framework used to create US foreign scorched earth policies and endless regime change wars, genocide, and violent resource extraction. So basically what they did to colonize the United States of America: genocide, you know, extermination of native indigenous peoples through brutal tactics, militias, you know. Anyways, read the book. But at the, you know, in that book, that's where I saw the citation that in 2003, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, me and Kendra Larson were probably like sophomores or something at PNCA after 9/11. They pulled those TVs out that morning, and we all watched the planes fly into the buildings, and, you know, been psychologically scarred ever since then. And then we've now been at war in the Middle East. They've killed, you know, millions of people. And so yeah, this is like, you have to like, in my head, I'm like, I have to figure this out. I'm like, and then they started these torture programs, right, in Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib and who knows where else. They call them black sites, the CIA black sites, where they tortured people. So that's what I ended up writing my chapter about, because I didn't understand it. I'm like, why are you lynching people, forcing people to watch it? And then, so this whole chapter, basically what I went into is I studied torture, sadism, and like post-Nazi, like sadistic stuff. Because like, anyways, I think it's really important. It was a really difficult subject matter for me to go through, but yeah, that's what this is about. And so this is one of those paintings from that series. It's called Torture State. Yeah, okay, I don't really have much else to say about that. But yeah, painting was in the Portland Art Museum show as well, Mesh. And oh, I'm gonna read this part for you all. So yeah, chapter 3, Ghostwriter, Ka'ila Farrell Smith. Before I do that, I'm gonna do a quick, let's do a quick little intermission check here. Just because I need to check on my dogs and water, and I need to do a time check. I know I can talk for a really long time, so let's just do a quick. Oh, these birds are flying into my windows too. All right, let's just do like a minute break, and I'll be right back.
While we're waiting, thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions, you are free to put them in the chat, or we'll have a few minutes at the very end to ask any questions. And I'm turning off my camera just because my computer is skipping. So, but yeah, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat.
No. Okay. Can you still hear me, Kendra?
Yes, yes. I just told everybody that I'm turning off my camera because my computer is skipping a little bit, so it might help. And then if there's any questions, just put them in the chat. So, but yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay, we
11.
got about 45 minutes. All right, my dogs are fighting. I'm gonna put them back out. Hold on. Back outside. Taylor, go on.
I guess the one quick question I had for you, Kendra, is when will this recording be available, and is it available to folks to sort of to share out?
Yes, so it'll be on our website,
Okay.
artgallery.space, and usually it takes me just a day or two to get it out there. So probably by probably Wednesday.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks very much.
And Ka'ila, we can't hear your dogs really, just so you know. Like I don't.
Okay, thanks. I just they're back outside. I need to go take them on like a really long walk today. So
There you go. There you go.
all right. So yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit of this because I think it's actually important to my work. And I might not get into a lot of talking about the lithium mining stuff, but we'll see how far we can get here in the next few minutes. So so yeah, I'm like quoting so okay, I'm just gonna read this part of it. So torture, forced assimilation, and promoting the public spectacle of lynching the other. How do unending wars abroad and mass incarceration of Americans go hand in glove? Can we use our creative practices to improve our physical, mental, and spiritual freedoms? It is imperative that we act from within the empire to end both the atrocities it carries out on its own citizens and those it imposes on foreign populations. So Martineau and Eric Ritzky's oh yeah, that's who I'm writing about or I'm researching is this chapter, and quoting Wanda Nannybush, who states, excuse me, that Indigenous art is inherently political. So in a similar vein, Martineau and Ritzky's theorized the concept of fugitive Indigenous aesthetics as an overflowing of borders and bordered thinking. So a liminal praxis whose generative effects activate art in a transversal representing of indigeneity throughout Indigenous lands, languages, and territories. So Indigenous art refuses the struggle for inclusion and recognition. Rather, it chooses refusal and as modes of freedom. So that was like really like just that last part, this like choosing refusal and flight as a mode of freedom, like kind of embodies like what I did, like leaving the city, leaving everything, and just focusing my and completely transforming my studio practice as well. Like I've been moving away from oil paints for physical personal reasons, but then using the wild harvested pigments. So in that land back series, there was lots of charcoal that I harvested from like forest fires, like burnt down. I do a lot of hiking and walking, and so I collect these natural or the wild harvested pigments and include that in my series, and then stenciling the metal detritus that I found on the lands. Like in that series, I was actually stenciling lots of bullets and like shot up cans, like this kind of stuff I just find on the land down here. So as outlined in the first section, Indigenous and tribal people have become the root of the government's definition of terrorist in the U.S. enunciations of sovereignty. So that's what Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz was writing about in that book, Indigenous People's History of the United States, is that, and that's what happened in 2003. And that's why I really encourage people to get this book and study what I wrote, because it's really important, especially to what the PSYOP that we're literally living through right now. And in my court case, I'm trying to get ahead of this because the Biden administration wants to label all of us as domestic terrorists. So it's this word terrorist. And what goes hand in hand with this word is it gives them, apparently in their enunciations of sovereignty, the right to torture us, that we're not human beings. And literally it goes back to like papal, like papal bulls, like so from like the Vatican City, and where they call us homo sacer. Oh yeah, I'm going to read it. Okay, so this is the ultimate act of desecration and disrespect to Indigenous peoples and their spiritual connection to their homelands. Naming the original people of a land terrorists or fugitives has become a pattern for militarized settler states. It's used to other the Indigenous community so that the settler state can loot natural resources. Similarly, this is the narrative corporations use to dominate abroad and manipulate the populations at home. And the only way to combat this pervasive violence is to reimagine the fugitive spaces and colonial geographies through reconnecting with the land. So that's kind of the core of like what this chapter is about, and what my that work I was doing from 2019 to 2021 is. And so this piece is called Off the Ground, and it is a this is my favorite painting from the whole series, and it was purchased by the Portland Art Museum. So this is actually now in the permanent collection of the Portland Art Museum. Yeah, it's about living on the front lines of the wildfires here in the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, I witnessed, I was at Medicine Lake, actually, which is where the lava beds are. It's the homelands of the Modoc people in Northern California. And like, it was my birthday's July 27th, so it was like summer, but like the skies just turned black. Thunder and lightning just like lit the skies and the forest. And I ended up like fleeing with my my truck and my Kale and my dog back to Oregon. And I turned back and looked, and I saw like a thunderbird, like visually, like flying, like coming out of the sky. And so that's what this painting is about, and I called it Off the Ground. So yeah, here's that show at the Portland Art Museum, Mesh, which was curated by Kathleen Ash Milby. And on the wall text, it says, "Climate justice shows up in my work through scrawled text and a volatile energy in my mark making that reflects the violence on the land and on Indigenous bodies." So I know I have a few minutes left here, but I just wanted to kind of get through the art talk. So I'm really proud. I got to go to Washington, D.C., and I have 2 pieces and 2 different shows there. So this show is called The Land Carries Our Ancestors. It's by The Land Carries Our Ancestors, Contemporary Art by Native Americans. And it was curated by, or is curated by Jean Quick-to-See Smith. So this is up through January 15th at the National Gallery of Art. I didn't really get it. Like, I got the book, I saw it online, but I actually going to DC and like being on the mall, and getting to go into this huge, the National Gallery of Art, and seeing my work there in this the whole show is incredible. But I thought it was really interesting how she curated it, because she did this checkerboard effect with all of our prints, and that's my print right there. But yeah, I was kind of explaining that I feel like we're almost in this time of like living in the time of like Renaissance of contemporary Native American art. And so that's kind of what this show is that Jean curated. And anyways, very proud to be a part of that show. So this is just a close-up of that piece. And it was made at Crow's Shadow. Actually, a lot of that work that she selected and curated was from Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts, which is Eastern Oregon in Umatilla. And this monoprint refers to a large abstract petroglyph located at Heart Mountain in Southern Oregon. And the glyph predates this massive volcanic eruption that blasted Mount Mazama 7,700 years ago, which was what created Crater Lake. And Heart Mountain is is sacred, sacred place. And it's really the origin, like our origin stories of the Northern Paiutes all go to this Heart Mountain area. And this is large lakes. It's a Great Basin, if you understand the Oregon natural desert, like the history of this area. But basically this glyph predates, it's at least 7,700 years old. So, and like our sagebrush sandals were found in the caves down there. So it's the oldest remnants of human history in North America is this area. And these people, they created this image. And anyways, it's a beautiful place out there. And I got to go to DC to advocate for it. And I also have a piece, which I'll talk about in a second. I also have a piece in the Smithsonian American Art Museum right now in a show called Many West's Artist Shape an American Idea. And it's my painting enrollment. And this piece was actually part of my thesis for my master's degree program from Portland State University. And it has the Hudson Bay Point blanket. It's this androgynous figure kind of wrapped in this blanket. And my enrollment number is kind of etched into the red stripe of that blanket. So it's I write that it's a painting that visually explores the complexities of tribal enrollment rules like blood quantum and the trendiness of these Hudson Bay Company's wool blankets that were historically used to spread smallpox, like a bioweapon, a smallpox disease, to Indigenous communities. And it navigates contested terrains that inform contemporary Indigenous identity. So yeah, that was really cool. It was really cool to get to actually, so I actually had a lot of fun lobbying. So I'm going to get through the lobbying part and then we'll just go to Q&A. But yeah, this was my crew I got to go to DC with. The Oregon Natural Desert Association paid for all of us to go and advocate our representatives and senators in DC. And so the last 3 years, I've been supporting this group called People of Red Mountain, or Atsa Kudaku Wainuu in Paiute. And yeah, we spent a week lobbying our senators and representatives to protect the Hawaii Canyon lands with either wilderness or national monument designation. And yeah, let's get a map going on in here. So there's Boise. This is the Oregon, Idaho, Nevada corner of, that's where we're at here. And so what we were advocating for, so Ron Wyden already has this bill already, like it's all written up, it's ready to go. We just need it to get passed. And that's where we're at right now. That's why we were there. We were just like, just give us the protection. So 1.1 million acres of Hawaii Canyon lands would be given wilderness protection through Ron Wyden's bill. So you can see it's this whole area with all the numbers in it. But a part of it too would be giving land back to the Burns Paiute tribe, which is a big deal. But this is this massive river, right? There's the Snake River, the Oahe, and then the Oahe, it flows into Nevada. And so historically, salmon would make it to Nevada, which is amazing. And a lot of people don't know that, but there's this big dam here. So the salmon haven't been to Nevada. Like where I'm from, we haven't had salmon in our lakes for 100 years because of these dams. So, you know, when we talk about like land back and decolonizing land, decolonizing the rivers, like take the dams off because we want our fish back. We want our salmon back. Like we're historically, traditionally like sacred, you know, like we're connected spiritually with these fish. And so that's kind of what the whole being a water protector is about, a land defender. So the other unique thing, and that we'll get to, is that this whole area, I don't know if you can see where my mouse is. It's the very tippy, this is the border of Nevada. So this is Thacker Pass, basically right here. And all of these yellow here are McDermott Caldera mining claims. So they already have been claimed for lithium. This is the largest lithium deposit in the world, which means all the corporations want to get there and dig it all up. So the other thing we were petitioning on is that we're working on a parallel path. So basically, if like Wyden's bill dies in Congress because our government doesn't know how to do anything, or as I learned lobbying, Congress isn't congressing right now. Like we're in like government shutdowns. What we're also working to do is a parallel path is to transform the same landscape into a national monument by the end of the 118th Congress. So this is like the last thing the Biden administration could do is give it national monument protection. Either way, national monument or wilderness would keep this land from being mined in the future. Because if you know, like Yellowstone's over here, all that's like when they get that super volcano exploded, that's where all this lithium ended up over here. And so yeah, this is kind of maybe you should invite me back to give the other part of my talk, which is about protecting McDermott Caldera. And so it's specifically about that one area. And Hannah Bakken Morris, she created this design. And my husband Cale, he took the photo. So this is the whole area, that this is where all the lithium is, and this is where they want to dig it all up. So that, yeah, anyways, unfortunately they already, so I spent 3 years supporting the people out here in Nevada. And I guess I'll just end with that, like why it's important to me is, so because going back to my father and my father's court case about Native American freedom of religion, my dad would take me out here to Fort McDermott when I was my whole young life to go to Native American ceremonies, specifically. So I have a very deep spiritual connection to this place, and a lot of these memories of traveling out here with my dad, when I was younger. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's where I'll end the talk today. So thank you so much for having me, and it was great to let you know what I've been up to.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thanks,
Love that.
Kendra.
Are there any questions before we go? Anybody want to say? Oh,
Is there a chat?
there's a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Yeah, I just reading the chat. Yeah, I heard that from PNC that people felt like they learned a lot from my talk. So I'm glad that it's recorded, and hopefully people can gain access to this in the future through the digital recording. And yeah, let me know if you have questions, or again, this is ongoing work for me, so I'm kind of just in the midst of it all. And but yeah, I've signed with the Russo Lee Gallery, so they're probably going to be announcing it any day. Again, I was saying I'm having technology problems again in my life, but I'll try to figure out how to share that if you want to follow me on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Do you want to put your Instagram handle in the chat real quick?
It's just my name. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'll just throw a plug for the show here at the Archer.
Yeah, go see so basically in that show is I said I made a series of 21 paintings. So 007 and 008 are the two paintings that I had set aside for the Stone Path exhibition. So those are yeah, go check out the show. I haven't seen it yet, but it's I've been exhibiting now with these incredible other artists, and it's just like an honor to get to be in dialogue, visual dialogue, with the other artists that are part of the exhibition. So go check it out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ka'ila.
Thanks, Kendra. Take care.
All right.